Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Sarvan Gupta and we are back with the different systems of classification. Today our topic of discussion is the five kingdom classification. So coming to the five kingdom classification, now it is important to note that the five kingdom classification was not the initial result of classification of living organisms by scientists. That title goes to the two kingdom classification, which put all living organisms into two different groups, plants and animals. Now, as we discussed in our previous videos, the two kingdom classification, although it was extremely simple and helped in the organization of wide variety of organisms, it had certain important drawbacks. Like for example, there was no distinction between prokaryotic or eukaryotic. Prokaryotic and eukaryotic organisms were placed together like the bacteria within the thallophytes group of plants. Then eukaryotic, autotrophic and heterotrophic, or unicellular and multicellular. The five kingdom classification, on the other hand, is a attempt at more refining the system of classification and classifying living organisms on a more wide range of criteria. Like for example, cell structure, mode of nutrition and body organization. It was proposed by R.H. Whittaker in 1969 and organizes all living organisms into five different groups: Monerans, Protistans, Fungi, plants and animals. Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. Five kingdoms. Hence the name five kingdom classification. Now, Monera, the kingdom, consists entirely of prokaryotic organisms like the bacteria, the cyanobacteria, the archaebacteria, and even now the actinobacteria. The kingdom Protista is a large assemblage of primitive eukaryotic organisms with or without cell walls, having autotrophic mode or heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Sometimes even mixotrophic, that is autotrophic and heterotrophic mode running simultaneously. The kingdom Fungi consists of eukaryotic achlorophyllous organisms with chitinous cell walls having heterotrophic, that is either parasitic or sometimes saprophytic or sometimes even symbiotic mode of nutrition. Now, few important things to note. Firstly, the fungi, they are eukaryotic, hence it separates a group known as the actinomycota, which were originally classified as fungi from the main kingdom of fungi and puts them in Monera. Because they have chitinous cell walls, this also separates them from true plants, which are put in Plantae kingdom plant. Because chitinous cell walls are found chitin is nowhere found in plants. Chitin occurs in the exoskeleton of animals, but nowhere in plants is chitin found. Moreover, Monerans and fungi sometimes have glycogen as the storage product. Mainly fungi have glycogen as the storage product. Glycogen is the storage product in animals, not in plants. Together, these characters make fungi unique and give them and place them as a separate kingdom of their own amongst the different life forms. The fourth kingdom, Plantae, consists of eukaryotic chlorophyllous organisms with cellulosic cell walls having autotrophic mode of nutrition. Eukaryotic chlorophyllous organisms. Because they are chlorophyllous, they have autotrophic mode of nutrition and they are eukaryotic. Now there are exceptions to the eukaryotic mode of nutrition. the autotrophic mode of nutrition. For example, the genus Monotropa is mainly saprophytic, whereas the Rafflesia genus is a genus of parasitic plants that occur uh, as endoparasites of different living vines in tropical forests, emerging only to flower. The animals, or the fifth group, Animalia, consists of eukaryotic achlorophyllous organisms without cell walls. That is, they do not have, they're eukaryotic, they're achlorophyllous, and they do not have cell walls. And another important factor of animals is that they have holozoic mode of nutrition. That is, their mode of nutrition is holozoic. So what is holozoic mode of nutrition? Holozoic mode of nutrition entails consumption of food by an edifice, most commonly known as the oral edifice. Its ingestion into an internal canal known as the alimentary canal or digestive canal or digestive tract. Its digestion into simpler fragments, either complete or incomplete, and absorption of these complete or incompletely digested portions by the cells lining the canal, and egestion of the undigested material via the uh, same or a different edifice. In most organisms, this occurs via separate edifice known as the aboral edifice, but in some organisms, like in cylinderates, this occurs via the same edifice. Whereas the mouth and the anus are same. Now, if we can consider kingdom Monera, the first kingdom of the five kingdoms. Now, bacteria are categorized under the kingdom Monera. Now, features of Monerans include that they are ubiquitous. There is hardly a place in the world in nature where you won't find bacteria. And they are microscopic in nature. They're totally microscopic. They need to be seen under a high power light microscope or under even higher magnifications than that is possible on a standard light microscope, like in an electron microscope, etc. Now, some are extremophiles living in extreme habitats like thermal hot springs, geysers, high salinity water bodies, etc. Now, they are prokaryotic. They possess a cell wall, but are sometimes are wall-less, like in case of mycoplasmas. In those that have cell wall, the cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan. Now, they can be autotrophic or heterotrophic. The heterotrophic bacteria can be parasitic or saprophytic, whereas the autotrophic bacteria can be chemosynthetic, that is chemoautotrophic, or photosynthetic, that is photoautotrophic. Here are a few examples of bacteria. Like this is lactobacillus, which is a common component of curd and is responsible for converting milk into curd. It is also a common inhabitant of our gastrointestinal tract, and because consuming antibiotics and all often also wipes out indiscriminately wipes out the bacteria, we often have to take lactobacillus supplements when dealing with when taking in antibiotics. There's halobacterium. Now, halobacterium falls within a special group of bacteria called the archaea or the archaebacteria, which are bacteria that live in extreme environments like hot springs, geysers, like hot springs, geysers, or the extremely saline lakes, etc. Now, the, these archaebacteria have certain differences which set them apart from most bacteria, which is why they have been classified separately. We'll discuss that in later when we discuss the three domain classification, sorry. And there is Vibrio cholerae, the causative agents of cholera. There's Mycoplasma, or which is a which, as I said, is a wall-less bacterium. Then this the E. coli, or Escherichia coli, that is, which is one of the most abundant bacteria on Earth, and another common inhabitant of our gastrointestinal tract. Although if it can get into the wrong place, it can cause a lot of problems. There's this Staphylococcus aureus, which is the causative agent of pimples and acne. Then this is a root nodule, or rhizobium root nodule. This in these root nodules, rhizobacteria, bacteria of the genus genera Rhizobia, Rhizobium, Azorhizobium, etc., live in symbiosis with the roots of leguminous plants and convert atmospheric nitrogen to ammonium, which is then reacted with organic acids to produce amino acids. Now, this relationship is a highly successful evolutionary trait, and is reflected in the way our diets are dependent on lentils and other leguminous plants as a source of protein, secondary source of protein although, but primarily, but amongst vegetarians is one of the most important sources of protein, although it's of less quality as compared to milk and animal proteins. But in some cases, like in soy, the quality of protein, which is another leguminous plant by the way, the quality of protein is almost similar to that of meat. The amino acid profiling, only the bioavailability is a bit less. This is a root nodule structure under light microscope. Now coming to cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria are one of the major groups of bacteria. They're a group of gram-negative bacteria that have chlorophyll A as the primary photosynthetic pigment. This is what sets them apart from the rest of the photosynthetic bacteria, which mainly have bacteriochlorophyll, which is a derivative of chlorophyll, not true chlorophyll as the primary photosynthetic pigment. Whereas these cyanobacteria have chlorophyll A as a primary photosynthetic pigment. Now, chlorophyll A is the primary photosynthetic pigment in cyanobacteria as well as in plants, higher plants. That is all all plants, starting from the algae portion to the higher eukaryotes, higher plants like the gymnosperms and angiosperms, and they produce oxygen as one of the end products of photosynthesis via the photolysis of water, as here the water acts as the electron donor. Now when photosynthesis first evolved, uh, hydrogen sulfide was used as an electron donor, resulting in the production of elemental sulfur as the end product. Now gradually a new form of photosynthesis evolved, which utilized uh, water as the primary electron donor, resulting in the evolution of oxygen. Now this oxygen gradually built up and changed the primitive Earth's atmosphere from anoxygenic to oxygen. They were formerly placed within the Cyanophyta of algae subgroup of Thallophyta of cryptograms group of plant kingdom. They are very abundant and are found in almost every possible environment. They include unicellular forms or slightly colonial forms like the Glyocapsa, or the filamentous forms like Trichodesmium erythrium. As you can guess from the name, it's a erythrium. It's red in color, and this cyanophyte is what is responsible for giving the Red Sea its name, as blooms of these cyanophytes typically appear in the Red Sea from time to time and color the surface of the water red. That is how the Red Sea has gotten its name. Now, this is Oscillatoria, another filamentous cyanobacteria that is known for its oscillating behavior in response to light. That is, it can oscillate in response to light. This is Anabina, filamentous cyanobacterium that has uh, specialized nitrogen fixing cell known as heterocyst, as well as storages known as akinete, as well as storage cells storage cells which perinates, or rather perinating cells which can perinate through hard conditions known as akinetes. This is Arthrospira platensis, commonly known as spirulina, and is one of the richest sources of protein and other minerals in the entire universe. Even astronauts in space stations eat spirulina. Now, coming to the actinobacteria are gram-positive bacteria with high G plus C content. What is G plus C? G refers to guanine and C refers to cytosine, which are one of the 5 nitrogenous bases: adenine, guanine, thymine, cytosine, and uracil. Now, of these, adenine, guanine, thymine, and cytosine are found in DNA, and instead of thymine, uracil is found in RNA. Now, actinobacteria are gram-positive bacteria. In the previous video, in the previous slide, we mentioned that cyanobacteria are gram-negative. So, what is this gram-negative, gram-positive? Gram-negative, gram-positive refers to a technique of distinguishing bacteria by a method of staining known as the gram stain, in which bacteria are differentiated into two categories, gram-positive and gram-negative, depending on whether or not they retain the primary fixant, primary dye, the gram stain. Now, actinobacteria include one of the largest bacterial phyla and are ubiquitously distributed in both terrestrial as well as and aquatic ecosystems. Now, the term actinomycetes is a non-taxonomic group common for all a lot of soil microorganisms, commonly called clay or red bacteria, because here the cells are joined end to end to form strings or filaments. They are known for decomposing more resistant organic material such as chitin, a complex sugar found in the outer skeletons of insects as well as in the cytoskeleton, the cell wall of fungi. Examples include Frankia, a soil-dwelling nitrogen fixer; Streptomyces, a large genus of antibiotic-producing bacteria including Streptomyces griseus, the producer of streptomycin, which is active against Mycobacterium tuberculosis, the causative agents of tuberculosis. Now, because they're filamentous in nature and because they are non-autotrophic, because they're achlorophyllous, they're non-autotrophic, and because they are filamentous, they were originally placed within the fungi actinomycota subgroup of fungi, subgroup of thallophyta of cryptogams. But now fungi, not only is fungi placed as a separate kingdom in its own right, but also these organisms have been excluded from fungi and placed within the bacteria because of their prokaryotic nature and phylogenetic uh, similarity to bacteria. Now here are some actinobacteria. First we have a chocolate agar plate containing Streptomyces griseus. Streptomyces griseus, as we mentioned before, is the producing agent of streptomycin, the antibiotic that is active against Mycobacterium tuberculosis, the causative agent of tuberculosis. Now, what is an agar plate? An agar plate is a plate or a petri plate containing a growing medium in solidified form with the help of agar. The agar plates are used in microbiology to grow bacteria and fungi. Now this is Streptomyces griseus under the electron microscope. Now please note the filamentous structure of these actinobacteria, that is the cells are attached end to end to form filaments. This is what gives them the name thread bacteria or ray bacteria, and this is what led to the confusion and classification of theirs in the group fungi. There is a chemical composition of streptomycin, the antibiotic that is produced by Streptomyces griseus and is active against tuberculosis, causing Mycobacterium tuberculosis. And these are structures of certain root nodules under the microscope, stained and photographed under the light microscope, with actinobacteria called Frankia, which are soil-dwelling, nitrogen-fixing nitrogen-fixing bacteria that live in association with plant roots. Now, I've gathered these images from Seposi et al. 2015. This is a reference to that. Thank you. That's all for today. So we discussed the 5 kingdom classification with special emphasis on kingdom Monera. We will be discussing the other kingdoms also in detail gradually. If you have any questions or would like me to make videos on anything, any other topic, please comment below and let me know. I make such educational videos. This video is especially for those who want to gain some extra knowledge, and especially for those who are appearing for competitive exams. Thank you.